New gear day in the shop. Let's go through it and see if we can't get it to do what we want it to do. Stand by. Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. I am James. We're going to put this on the guitar channel, but it is applicable to, really all three of the channels. The guitar channel, the Fab Shop channel, as well as Mrs. Rattlecan's channel. So, what is it? You can call it a chop saw. More properly, it's known as a miter saw. And this one has some bells and whistles on it that we'll explore. But before we get to the bells and whistles, we got to do a couple of things. First of all, we got it out of the box, and you have to have something to put it on. You can put it on a table and just use C-clamps to kind of hold it onto your table. You can put it on a bench, and you can kind of just drive some screws down through it, put it on your workbench if you want to do that. What I ended up doing was I had an injured Harbor Freight Workmate copy that, as most things with more than one or two moving parts coming from Harbor Freight, they sometimes have difficulty in the longevity region. This one, because the top boards, much like the original Workmate, they're just made out of chipboard, and they don't last too long. I kind of rescued it, and what I did is I replaced the moving pieces with just one solid piece of 3/4 inch plywood. So we've got it affixated to our stand at a comfortable working height. And a couple of the particulars: this is a 15 amp motor. It's got a little bit of juice to it. I chose a 12-inch blade because I have some thicker beams that I'm going to be cutting through, some wider boards that I'm going to be cutting, and I kind of needed that added reach. This one will bevel 45 degrees, both left and right. It will, and it also slides in and out, and then I can cut 45 left or right. Miter cuts, but most of the time you're going to be doing just a straight 90 cut. So with that said, the first thing that we do when we get something like this is we make a 90-degree cut and see if it actually comes adjusted correctly from the factory. Place your bets. So what I've done is, on this piece of 3/4 plywood, so I've drawn a line on there that's a 90-degree angle, and so I am just a skosh on that side of the line so that we can make a cut, and then we can see, are we going to track along that line, or is there going to be some sort of an angle that we're going to have to compensate for? And lo and behold, it's not square. See how that gap gets bigger? Our blade, or not necessarily our blade, our fence isn't 90 degrees to the blade. So the first thing that we got to do is we have to adjust our fence. Safety third, make sure your saw is unplugged. So on this fence, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off our little hold down arm. Then there's a screw here in the back where we can take off this fence riser. There are 4 5mm nuts in there, and I'm telling you, I've loosened these two up already. They are in there tight, because you'll hear it crack here as I try to loosen this one up. So now our fence is loose. We have a little bit of adjustability in there, so you can see how much we can adjust in there. Now I'm going to bring my blade down into the fully down position. I'm going to engage my arm lock And now I'm 90 degrees to my blade, and now I can adjust my fence, and we'll see if we can actually get our cut to be more 90 degrees than it was. Now, something else you can also do is you can pull this out to see if you're tracking. And there, I just wiggled it again. Tighten those 4 back up. So now that you got that tightened down, let's put our arm back up. And just like we did before, I'm going to put this just on the far side of this line, just a skosh. And we'll see if we're heroes or zeros. Closer. Just a tiny bit off there, probably a 1/16 of an inch. Since we're here, you might as well do it right. So we're going to repeat that process, and we're going to keep adjusting that until it is the way it is. Or it is the way it's supposed to be. Closer and closer. We put a 90 degree on it. Can you see it? Or hear it? And then you can see there's no ink line here. There's a little blip there, and then there it is. That line comes back in. So we are exceedingly close. We're the width of a pen line away. And again, you know, if you're gonna spend the money on something like that to get cuts, you might as well dial it in, spend a little bit of time up front, and then feel good about the cuts that you have a confidence that when you lay that down there, a 90 degree cut's going to be a 90 degree cut. Just how close we are. I'm 90 degrees on the fence. Then I push it in until it contacts the side of the blade. And as I push this in, you see that gap? It opens up. It doesn't open up very much, but it opens up. When you pull it back, it closes up, and then you can hear it actually scrape on the side. So we're close. All right, finally, there's no back and forth wiggle there. And let me show you what I ended up doing, because I'm an old fart. What I ended up doing was I made a line with a thin tip Sharpie, then loosened 3 bolts and barely loosened the end bolt, and then I just gave that a little tappy tap with a nylon faced hammer until I could actually see that move. Because what I think I was doing was I thought it was moving, because this took me 8 cuts. I mean, it wasn't a lot of time. It's like 15 minutes. But I would have thought I moved it, and then I would put this, then I would tighten everything back up, then I would cut it, and it was still the same. So I just drew that one little bitty line right there, and then when I tapped it with a hammer, I could actually see daylight or space where this end of the fence had kicked out a little bit, tightened everything up, now we're good to go. So when they tell you it's adjusted from the factory, take that with a salt lick. Something that I didn't pay attention to when I was glossing over the marketing link on this is that it comes with a laser designator. I've never been a big fan of them. I find them to be kind of finicky to get dialed in with. This one is exactly the same way. I don't know if you can see that laser line. It is fairly parallel, but first of all, your adjustments are now underneath this guard. So you have to get something to kind of poke through there, and then you get it kind of lined up. And when you move it one way or the other, I find it tends to skew one way or the other. Well, you can't get to the skew adjustment hardly at all without going in at some weird angle. So that kind of looks okay, except now now I'm on the wrong side of the line. So now if I move it back to the right side of the line, well, now I'm askew again. And, if this is a feature that you're looking for, well, this one's got it. I don't know that I'm going to use it. It's just kind of like getting it to make a 90-degree cut. You got to fart around with it for quite a while to kind of get it dialed in. And for some of you, it may be worth it, but for me, I'm just going to pass on it. So now that I've gotten that kind of taken care of, I can get all this dust out of here. And I can slide my fence extensions back on. A couple of things back here on the back end that we need to talk about. This is, as we've alluded to, a slider. So you have got this that's going to go back and forth. You've got these rails that it slides in. You can hear some bearings in there rolling back and forth. So there's one thing that we kind of got to pay attention to is down here where the travel is. You'll notice that we'll get some sawdust on here. The dust collection on this thing is pretty meager as it is. Now there is a port that comes out here. You get a bag, and the bags are, again, this is if you're on the job site, then this bag is probably, it's better than nothing. I've already seen a couple of plans where people have got like little brushed kind of scoops. So this saw is blowing back here. It helps to contain that and drive it up into here. And I think something like that combined with actually running vacuum on the back end of this will be pretty useful. Or a shop size dust collection system if you've got one of those. But they're not, if you've got a miter saw, man, you're just trying to get stuff done. And we're not talking, precision dust collection equipment here. We're talking trying to get stuff done. So, that's something that we're going to work on in the future. So, out of the box impression, with a little tweaking, it works okay. You got to get that. You got to make sure that your fence is 90 to your blade. Now, we have not even gone into the realm of are my miter cuts. I mean, is my 45 actually a 45? Is my 33 actually a 33? And we haven't gone into the bevel at all. I just don't, at the moment at least, I just don't see a lot of compound bevel cuts in my life. And I say that, and somebody out there is laughing because it's coming. So anyways, once you get a decent stand, beneath it, if you're going to keep it in the shop, yeah, it's all right. Now, we'll see in 6 months. We'll see in a year. Actually, we'll see in about 2 weeks after we put a truckload of cedar through it. And we'll see what we think of it then. Anyways, it's a new piece in the shop. It's something that I've wanted to get for quite a while. And what did it take? It took the DeWalt radial arm saw, basically just kind of giving up the ghost to kind of push us to spend the money. We got it for a little less than $300. So anyways, that's what's going on here at the shop. You guys have a good weekend. Cheers.
Hey, if you like this episode of RATTLECAN Guitar Restorations, you might want to check this video out as well. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you'd like to help the channel grow, consider stepping over to our Patreon page and giving that a look. Y'all have a good weekend. Cheers.